Whether you've had your menstrual period for many years or not, one of the key things which you should be doing is studying your menstrual cycle. And as you study your menstrual cycle, you get to understand it for yourself and you get to understand what is normal for you. For example, you get to know how long your menstrual cycle is. You get to know how many pads you normally use during your menstrual period, what amount of pain you get. You get to know what amount of bleeding you normally have during your menstrual period, whether you have the spotting of ovulation or not, and many other factors that you get to know, and you understand whether these are normal for you. On the other hand, you could be going through some things in your menstrual period or your menstrual cycle generally, and you think they're normal just because you've had them for a long time. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 red flags or 5 danger signs that you should be watching out for, so that if you experience any of these, you would need to seek some medical attention. Hello and welcome to Case Corner. My name is Karen, and on this channel, I talk all about menstrual periods. The first thing which you should consider as a red flag during your menstrual period is excessive period pain. Now, when it comes to pain, every one of us experiences pain in our own way, and we tolerate pain in different degrees. So what is excessive in terms of pain for one lady may not be the same for another lady. However, when it comes to menstrual periods, you would realize that during your menstrual period, you have this pain that is bearable, that is tolerable. It doesn't stop you from doing your usual activities. You probably go to work, go to school, go shopping, do your normal house chores, but you know that you have some pain. You know that you're on your period and you have some pain, but you're actually carrying on with your normal day-to-day life, and it doesn't really stop you from doing anything. However, if you start experiencing the kind of pain that literally grounds you, so you're not able to shop, you're not able to do your normal work, you're not able to go out and just live your life because of your menstrual periods, that's a red flag. Sometimes it comes with vomiting, sometimes you have a fever with it, and you really have to be in bed all day, and you've taken medications and it's not helping. Please, that's a red flag, and you need to seek medical attention. Don't stay with it. Don't try to bear it, because there could be something going on in the background that could be sorted for you. So that's red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 is severe bleeding. So if you're bleeding severely during your menstrual period, that's a danger sign. And now, as you study your menstrual cycle again, you get to understand what amount of bleeding is normal for you. However, there are some things which you should be monitoring yourself for, so that you know whether you're having severe bleeding or not. And obviously, you have some women who are light bleeders, you have some women who are heavy bleeders, but even those women who are kind of categorized as heavy bleeders, they bleed heavily but not quite severely. So that's a normal thing for them. So the things which you want to watch out for, so you can know whether you're bleeding severely, would be the number of times that you change your pads during the day, and obviously during the night, right? So if you're changing your pads very frequently, and I'm talking about, like, say, every hour, every 1 to 2 hours, you have to change your pads, and you're changing them because they are heavily soaked, they are completely filled, or whether you're using the tampon, it's completely soaked, you need to be thinking that something is not quite right. There are some women who do not like their pads completely soaked before they change them, and so even when the pad is not filled up, they go to change it. That's all right. However, if you realize that every hour you have to change your pad because it's so soaked, and if you just waste any more time, it's gonna stain your clothes, then you need to be thinking that you're bleeding severely. Another thing which you need to monitor in terms of bleeding is whether you're bleeding with clots. Alright, so once in a while you have some very tiny clots there which you could ignore. However, you also have massive clots or large clots. You really see like a ball of something there in your pad. Please, that could just be a sign that you're bleeding heavily. Now, the average woman would bleed from 3 to 5 days. But again, you have some women who bleed even up to 7 days. Whatever the case, you would realize that as you're getting toward the 5th, 6th, and 7th day, the amount of bleeding is reducing. So if you notice that you're bleeding in the same way on the 7th day or the 8th day, just like the same way you're bleeding on the 3rd day, and maybe even beyond the 7th up to maybe 10 days, the bleeding is not stopping, it's not reducing, then you might be having severe bleeding and you need to check this out and seek some medical attention. Another thing is the fact that you have to frequently double up your pads just to try and control the amount of bleeding. Please check this out. It might be something that can be sorted. And you also feel that you get really tired, you have excessive abdominal pain because of the bleeding. If you experience this, you need to seek medical attention because that could be a red flag. Red flag number 3, or the third danger sign which you need to be watching out for, is bleeding between periods. Right? So what that means is that you bleed on 1 month, and before you bleed on the 2nd month, you have a kind of active bleeding between. So for example, if you bled on the 5th of January and you have a 29-day cycle, you should be expecting to bleed again around the 2nd of February, and then after that you bleed around the 2nd or the 3rd of March. But sometimes you realize that after bleeding on the 5th of January, somewhere around maybe the 14th or the 15th, you have another kind of bleeding and it's actually active. Maybe for another 3 days, it's another kind of periods. And then you bleed again in February, somewhere around the 2nd. All right. So normally you should not be having bleeding between your periods. As you study your cycle, you get to understand whether you have the spotting of ovulation. Now, the ovulation spotting is actually like it's called a spotting. So somewhere around when you're ovulating, you just have that spot. It's just a spot there, a spot of blood which you find in your underwear, and that's it. It's not an active bleeding. It's just that spot there, just there, and there's nothing else. But if you have active bleeding for maybe 1, 2, 3 days, that is bleeding between periods, and it's important that you check this out and seek some medical help. Now, if you haven't watched my video, I've put the link in the description of the video you can watch to learn how to study your menstrual cycle so that you get to understand what is normal for you and what is not normal for you. Let's move on to the 4th red flag. But before I do that, please consider to subscribe to the channel, and why not like this video and share it, and also don't forget to hit the notification bell so that when I upload any of these videos, you will not miss out. The 4th red flag or danger sign which you want to be monitoring during your menstrual cycle is irregular menstrual periods. Now, irregular menstrual periods means that your menstrual cycle keeps changing. All right. Now, it's normal when young girls are in puberty to have an irregular menstrual period, even up to 16 years, 17 years sometimes, and also just before menopause. All right. So anywhere after 45 years upward, you're expecting that your menstrual cycle will start being irregular because you're preparing to get into menopause. However, if you are not in this age group, so you're not in puberty and you're not in the premenopausal age, and you have irregular cycles, you need to seek some medical attention. So if you have, say, on one cycle, the menstrual cycle is about, say, 29 days. On another one, it goes up to 50, then it comes down to 20, then it goes up to 35, and you really just can't work out what's going on with your menstrual cycle. You need to seek some medical attention. It's also worth noting that sometimes, because of the kinds of things that happen with us, sometimes just the stress of life, sometimes just, we're just completely worked out. It affects our bodies, and for one cycle or just once in a while, you could have a delayed menstrual period. And so for that menstrual cycle, it will be a bit kind of irregular, but it just readjusts itself as you also get back into your normal routine, or as you get out of the stress. All right. But what I'm talking about is the fact that on a regular basis, you find that you just can't understand your menstrual cycle. It just keeps changing and you have massive differences in the cycle. That's a red flag, especially if you're seeking to get pregnant. That could be a challenging thing for you. So it's important that you seek some medical attention for that. The 5th red flag which you want to be watching out for is one that is not so obvious. but it happens. It's the absence of periods. All right, so with the absence of periods, there are 3 clear reasons why you may not have menstrual periods. First is the fact that you haven't started menstrual periods anyway, so you're probably quite young. For the young girls, the menstrual periods will start somewhere around 9 years upward, even up to 14 years. But we know that there are some girls who start their menstrual periods as early as 8 years, and some of them start as late as into their teens. All right, so when you haven't had your menstrual period starting, well, that's not an issue. However, if it delays up to 16, 17 years, that's a red flag. And another reason why you may not have menstrual period is upfront, you're pregnant. All right, so when you don't have your menstrual periods, that could be a sign of pregnancy. You need to go check that out. And the third reason is the fact that you're menopausal. So you used to have menstrual periods, but you've gone into menopause, so there's no menstrual periods. So that's all right. However, if you've always had your menstrual periods, then for some time now, the menstrual periods have just stopped. You need to check it out. So have you gone into early menopause, or is there something going on? So again, there could be a delay in the menstrual periods depending on how stressed you are, depending on whether there's some infections going on or just anything happening in your body. However, as you get out of these things, the menstrual period resets itself. But if you realize that for some reason that you can't really put your finger on, your menstrual periods have just stopped, so you don't have menstrual periods, you need to check this out, because that could be a red flag. You could be pregnant, that's true, and you only find that out by checking it out. It's also possible that you're not pregnant and something else is going on. So each time there is the absence of menses or the absence of periods, please consider it as a red flag until proven otherwise. Remember that the bottom line in all of this is the fact that you know your menstrual cycle, that you have studied your menstrual cycle and you know what is normal for you and what is not normal for you. So don't forget to click the link in the description to watch the video that shows you how to study your menstrual cycle, so you can understand what is normal for you and what is not. Don't forget to like the video and to share it, and to turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out each time I upload these videos. Consider subscribing to the channel as well. Thank you for watching, and God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.